The storm has arrived. Jade Cargill finally makes her long-awaited debut in the WWE. What is next for her whilst we talk about her debut, the returns, and everything else that happened over Royal Rumble weekend? Stay tuned. This is WrstlXtra.
Oh, yo. This is WrstlXtra. I'm your boy, A Dazzle, the Black Wrestling Advocate, always joined by my trios team, the Real House of Black, Mex, the WrestleManiac, if you will. Yeah. And of course, the omnipresent, the all-knowledgeable Gerard Bonner. Let me start this show by saying 4 very simple words.
Lord. Before you do it, I knew Saturday night that this moment was going to happen. Now you go ahead and have your moment, and then I'm going to follow it up. But have your moment. Go ahead.
Because it doesn't happen enough. It doesn't happen often enough for me at least. I told you so. Jade made her debut finally after I think 4 months ago. She signed with WWE in September of 2023. The much publicized, much talked about signing of Jade Cargill to WWE, the first signing under the TKO banner. Jade made her debut at the Royal Rumble, also in the form that I said it would happen. A dominant Nia Jax in the Women's Royal Rumble would be confronted by Jade. It was done for me in an almost perfect way. Given the discussion that we had last week, and the way it was done, and obviously you guys' thoughts were not necessarily the opposite, but you were kind of, wanting it to be a little bit more. I think Gerard, you said something about her possibly being overshadowed because it's been done in a Royal Rumble match. There were suggestions of probably waiting until the Raw after Mania and all that kind of stuff. So give me your thoughts on one, how it felt to see her debut. And then 2, in hindsight, given everything, after the madness has kind of calmed down, how do you feel about the way Jade was introduced to us in the WWE? Gerard, I'll go with you first.
Okay. So how did they do it? I thought they did it pretty much perfectly, honestly. It's interesting. Now, I wish we had the footage. We probably could go back and see it. When we first had her, when she was first signed, and we were talking about where would she end up, I think we all were in agreement at that point that the Royal Rumble was the right place. And I think it wasn't really until the last couple of weeks where I know Mex and I, for sure, me, just felt like it didn't have to happen then, because so much has been going on and we wanted to make sure she was right. And we weren't sure. We didn't have any evidence one way or the other whether this would be right for her. I feel like it was done perfectly. My concern initially was that she'd be overpowered with star power. But bringing her in at number 28 allowed us to get through a lot of some of the star power that was already there, which we'll talk about a little bit later. It put her in a spot where she didn't have to go 30 minutes. It put her in where, again, the story that was told with Nia being so dominant early on in the Royal Rumble, for her to be the one to stand up to her, lift her up by herself, it was just done perfectly. I'm sure we'll get into the stare down, but that was the nice tease that we needed. Not too much, just enough for us to go, oh my God, this is really happening. And then to see her put hands on people she's never put hands before, like Becky Lynch, to see her put hands on, the returning Trinity / Naomi, which we'll talk about, to see her do all of those things. And then I do know that I said before, if she was to do this, she had to be Final 4. And for her to be Final 3 was perfect. And then the way she was eliminated, I just felt like for all of our concerns about how it would happen, it was done perfectly. I have no complaints with the way that Jade Cargill debuted.
Mix, we've seen the reactions from the Wrestling's boys doing a watch along. You jumped out your seat, almost lost your voice. I saw people ripping their shirts in the background. All sorts of madness was going on. But how do you feel now, given the way it was done, all the rest of it? And in your mind, can you think of how things can be done with Jade kind of moving forward? And I guess maybe in the immediate future, is it going to take another couple of months to see her again? Like, what are you thinking?
I mean, yeah, just to piggyback off Gerard, I thought like they done such a good job. I up till the moment, I'm sitting next to guys that are saying, Jade's gonna show up at this, and I'm just like, Jade's not showing up today. It's not happening. Maybe that's me managing my expectations, but I truly thought it wasn't going to happen. And then you hear this almost perfect rendition of her music, like to the point where if they went any closer, it's like, someone's gonna have to say something to Mikey Rockers because they're copying your music over here.
Right,
but like
right.
Perfect rendition. That is like it, the fans recognized it, and I feel like even in a stadium that a lot has been said over the last 72 hours or so of pops weren't loud and all of that kind of stuff because of maybe how high the ceiling was. You heard Jade's reaction. Like when we finally saw it all together. So amazing moment for her, and to go in there, mix it up with the Nias and stuff, dump Nia out and basically gets Becky's seal of approval right next to her, even though she ended up, eliminating Becky inadvertently as well. I think it's kind of disappointed she wasn't on Raw last night. I know there's only a certain amount of places that we can, put these people in. They had a lot to deal with, obviously, around the title picture and Punk's injury, so I understand that. But I think from the fact that, we done the whole Andrade signing with Raw, which on another note, it's great to see Andrade back, but in terms of his Rumble performance, I don't think it merited that segment. He was in the Rumble for maybe 20-ish minutes and respectfully did next to nothing. Whereas you had Jade get rid of a returning Naomi, Becky Lynch, who is probably the biggest female star in the company, and Nia Jax, who they've built up to be, the irresistible force and stuff like that. So if there's anyone you're kind of fight over and then tease the opposite general manager that you've got them, it probably should be Jade, I would think. Now, I won't drop the gun on that. Then obviously Nick Aldis came in, they've done the whole Braun Breaker thing, so they've completely skipped over Jade. I think they've announced on socials. I mean, right now, to our face. So they've announced on socials, I think Naomi is going to be on SmackDown, and I'll probably have a piece on Friday to confirm that.
That's correct.
So is she going to be on NXT? Because I would like to think, for the noise you made about her, to bring her out in the Rumble, and then, like I say, to not give her this kind of spot, but you rightly done the Braun Breaker thing. Braun Breaker was brilliant. 5 minutes he was in there.
Brilliant.
Was it only 5 minutes?
5 minutes.
That's incredible. That's incredible what he did. Wow. 5 minutes. And this is what I mean. Look at the impact he made in 5 minutes. Whereas the likes of Andrade, what was his impact after like 20? There's people that were on the main roster, like Shinsuke Nakamura was in there for like 20 minutes, did nothing. So it's like we've given the likes of Braun, the likes of Jade, X amount of time, and they've done so well in that time. They should, I feel, be occupying these spots like everyone's talking about them after the Rumble. We didn't see it on Raw. I can assume maybe NXT, and some of us could still argue, she does need a run in NXT and all of that kind of stuff, just for her own development. Although they are making a pretty big deal of her, right? Maybe it's SmackDown. I don't know. I think that's the only thing that's a bit. What's the word? I just say I'm anxious. I'm anxious to see. Obviously NXT is tonight, so we'll see if she kind of shows up there. But I'm anxious to see where she lands. I don't think we should go a whole week without her kind of being at least mentioned. At least say she's going to be on Raw next week or something, if that's the case. But she should definitely be mentioned. They gave her a little video package, if I remember correctly, on Raw.
That
was about it. Yeah,
they did that, but yeah, it was missing some kind of, you know, even if it was a backstage segment, or her coming out to confront someone last night. Because even with Nia Jax almost randomly attacking Rhea Ripley, you know what I mean? It's like, but you the one that got thrown out by Jade. Why are you here?
But
You know what I mean? I know she was dominant and she had most eliminations in that match, yes, on Saturday. But as Mex is saying, it kind of just feels as though they've missed an opportunity to a point. But in that same breath, as you said, you've got Andrade, you've got Braun. If you had all of those three kind of making appearances on Raw yesterday, it probably would have felt overkill. Someone would have been overshadowed. Something would have been missed. Something would have been rushed. Something like that. In terms of where she ends up, I would still actually be quite surprised given the spot in the Rumble and all the rest of it. I would actually still be quite surprised if she's not on the main roster.
If I can respond to that, it's interesting that those late entries this year were dominated by NXT.
Very true.
Whether it was Roxanne Perez, Tiffany Stratton, who I believe was like number
Tiffany
29,
brilliant as well.
You know, brilliant. So, and it's interesting because maybe we can read the tea leaves by Nia Jax going after Rhea last night instead of coming out and challenging Jade. It may be to say, okay, you had a great NXT showing, gonna act like that didn't happen and go after the world title. Meanwhile, you could make a case for Jade going and making that NXT Women's Division even stronger. You know, I think the thing that we have to, there are a couple of things that have to happen. We cannot get Jade and Bianca too soon. And one of the ways that you keep that apart is to have them on two completely separate brands. If Jade ends up on NXT and cooks for a while, we settle that particular issue, you know? So I think a strong showing in the Royal Rumble is great for Jade. But I totally believe that NXT would not be a bad move for her at all, because we still have to remember, for all that we've waited, you know, 3-4 months in the Performance Center does not make up for 2 years of barely having regular activity on multiple times in a given week. So I think the NXT spot would really give her a chance to hone that craft, because again, she came in at number 27. She didn't have to spend a lot of time, and there were a lot of people in there, lots of things getting our attention. What happens when she goes one-on-one? Are we sure that she's ready right now to go one-on-one with Nia Jax? She can lift her, yes, but can she hang in the ring with her? I think putting her in there in NXT, which, let's not, discredit NXT's women's division. It is stacked. So if she can last there and do well in that crew, yeah, then it'll be time to bring her up.
If she ends up in NXT, I almost feel as though she would have to be used in a very similar way as they're doing with Obafemi right now, in the sense where it's just dominance. And as great as the women's division is right now, and people can hang and all the rest of it, I just feel as though she's in this space where she probably should be on main roster, but probably isn't ready to be on main roster based on ability. Everything else, main roster. Ability, probably not. So she's in this space where I feel as though she's almost going to be above everyone. And for her to have losses against the likes of, I don't know, Fallon Henley and
let me stop you there. Let me stop you there. She don't need to lose.
This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. It has to be like the Obafemi type of thing where it's just dominance.
That's fair. One name comes to mind as you were saying all that. Karrion Kross. Remember how Karrion Kross came in?
Yes.
He was who he was. It's like it was all aura. People talk about his wrestling ability. For what his character was, I felt it was fine. People always say that he could always be better in the ring or whatever the case is. Fair enough. They book her similar to that. Obviously not the spooky crap, but just a dominant kind of person that comes in. You work with at the time he had all those better talents, the Adam Coles, all the indie
True.
darlings were all there. You
True.
know, work with all of those guys, the Tiffany's, the Roxanne Perez, the Blair Davenports, God knows. There's names there. There's even the younger names that are still, you know, maybe on par, if not above her in terms of ability. The Kalani Jordans and stuff like that. Like, there's many people she can go
James.
through. Kiana James, another one. Like, and I think the biggest thing going into Rumble weekend that I noticed is that, like, we've seen the crossover, the Carmelo Hayes on SmackDown. We saw Trick Williams on SmackDown. Trick Williams turned that building upside down. I couldn't believe them people were saying that Trick.
I couldn't believe
you
it.
are watching. So the crossover is real now. Like,
yes,
you know, the disconnect of the past days of bringing NXT people up and people not knowing who they are or whatever the case is, it's going. It may not be completely gone. It's going. They were confident. Roxanne Perez obviously featured in the Rumble last year as well. Tiffany Stratton got a big reaction when she came out at the Rumble. The crossover is working.
Yeah.
Jade is someone's protected. It's a foolproof plan, to be honest. We put her in NXT. She can be the biggest star in NXT. Learn, practice with all these ladies, and her star is intact. It's even going to be maybe bigger, like, where have you been by the time you come back to main roster sort of thing. And of course, like they're doing with Carmelo, when needed, they can just pop her in here and there to just kind of freshen things up on the main roster.
You know, I'm sorry. One of the things that NXT has not had in the last easy 3-4 years has been a mega star in the women's division. We've, you know, in almost every iteration of it, we've been able to talk about the men and what they've been able to do. But, you know, really, since we've had the 4 horsewomen leave NXT, there hasn't been like this mega star on the women's side. There have been standouts, but not like Io Sky was a standout, but she wasn't the mega star. The closest thing we got came from the main roster with Mandy Rose during that 2.0 space. You know what I mean? That's the closest thing we got, but she was already on the main roster. So I think Jade Cargill in NXT would check off a certain box that hasn't been checked. And let's remember, with all that's been going on in the last, you know, couple of months with media rights and the like, they've got to get NXT ready to go on broadcast television in the States in October. Okay. So with it being pretty clear that several of your big stars are leaving, like a Braun Breaker, like a Carmelo Hayes, and after Friday night, you got to think Trick Williams won't be far behind. You know, who's going to now carry the banner for NXT? You need a Jade Cargill in NXT. If no longer than the opening sweeps period of that first month, get her from now through October, November, and then let her make her rise up to the main roster. But she needs, I think, that time, and I think NXT needs it as well.
Yeah, I think I'm hearing all of that, and it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense for NXT, for Jade, even for the rest of the ladies in NXT as well at the moment. You know, the likes of Tiffany Stratton, Roxanne Perez. You know, there's no rush. As much as I believe both of them could be put into the main roster now, the current women's division, the main roster, kind of just feels there would be no real space for them.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not because they're not ready. It's not because they're not good enough. There just wouldn't be a space. It'd almost be like a waste. Yeah, it'd be a waste. So to still have them ladies down in NXT with Jade as well, and all that attention and the way they could build that division up even more than it already is, sounds very, very good. Let's go back to the Royal Rumble, and of course, the number 2 entrant was the returning Naomi, formerly known as Trinity, but also formerly known as Naomi, but now known as Naomi. Okay. The former TNA Knockouts world champion was in there. She was actually joined by the current Knockouts champion, Jordan Grace, which was amazing. And what a moment it was when they the two hugged in the ring and then just started battering each other. That was amazing. That was amazing.
Yeah.
As we've kind of mentioned, already said, it's news now that Naomi is, fully with WWE and is heading to SmackDown. No real surprise, as that's where her husband Jimmy Uso is as well. In terms of, me and Gerard have said, we kind of wanted Naomi to kind of stick around in TNA for a little bit longer and all that kind of thing. The moment and what she did in the match was brilliant. But I'll be very honest, and I'm going to get your opinion on this, Gerard. I don't know where they put her moving forward. That's the fear.
This is going to get very interesting. And I think yesterday on WWT Live, I asked the same question. Where does she go from here? Now, before I answer that, I want to say perhaps Trinity, which, by the way, they did such a good job with labeling her as Trinity that it's hard to call her Naomi again. Like, it's very weird, but it's literally like Trinity. No, Naomi, no. Yeah. So Naomi, who was known as Trinity, who's now known as Naomi, whose real name is Trinity, but she's Naomi. She had such an honorable way in which she left TNA.
Yes.
And the way in which they all supported her and said so many nights, like, we haven't seen a transition from one brand to another like that in a long time. Usually it's been contentious, or it's been, oh, well, we can't congratulate them because they did, whatever. So that was really special to see. My concerns prior to Saturday still exist. And those concerns are, where do we feature her? How do we feature her? Here's someone who has come from spending most of her time away as a world champion. She's now coming to be part of a very Raw or SmackDown, very stacked place. On Raw, of course, you got to deal with the issue of Rhea Ripley. What I can say about both brands, which is great, is that there are other stories that are being told besides the stories around the World Championship, which is really, really good. The problem is, coming in as a former world champion, not being treated that well when she left. The question is, what are the stories that can be told right now? And I don't know. Now, I saw somebody, I don't remember who, mentioned that now would be the perfect time for the WWE to insert a mid-card championship in the women's division. And I think if they did that, we now have the right story for Naomi. Because the problem we have right now on SmackDown is Bayley's the Royal Rumble winner. We're all looking to figure out who she's going to choose. Is she going to choose Io? Is she going to choose Rhea? The world title picture is pretty locked up. Because if she doesn't choose Rhea, then Rhea's got to deal with either Becky or Nia, probably both at some point. Where do we put Naomi? That's the question. I'm not sure of the answer, to be perfectly honest with you. I just hope that they can create some really compelling stories so that when we get to WrestleMania, she's in a meaningful matchup, in a meaningful story. I don't know when we'll see her around the world title. And I don't want to get my hopes. This is hard because I don't want to get my expectations to say she needs to be in the world title picture when I know it's crowded right now. But if she's not in a world title picture or around a championship, what are we doing? I feel like we're going to have to wait 6 months to a year before we really get to see where this can go. The only hope I have is that she re-signed for a reason. She had to have something in place that would say to her, whatever her needs or concerns were, would be handled. We'll find out what they are.
Mix, I see your brain is ticking away. Go for it. Go for it.
I'm just trying to take a look at the SmackDown women's roster. just to run through some names. Alba Fire and Isla Dawn are obviously in a tag team. Asuka currently in a tag team. B-Fab, we haven't seen, much of.
2 months or so.
Yeah. Bianca Belair, again, that's a single star will need something to do at WrestleMania. Charlotte Flair's on the shelf right now. Dakota Kai is currently injured too. Io Sky is the champion. Kairi Sane in a tag team with Asuka. Then we've got Michin, Scarlett, Shotzi, Tamina, and Zelina Vega. So immediately, when it comes to like single stars that are available at the top of that division, Bayley will obviously have the world title match, like we said. And then it's actually Bianca and Naomi. That would be the other two you expect to be on the WrestleMania card that are not currently or don't currently have a clear picture of what they would do.
Yeah, Bianca versus Naomi doesn't appeal to me, and I wouldn't want to see that at all.
It doesn't appeal. I guess right now there isn't enough there. We're still, the best part of 65 days or so out from WrestleMania.
Of course.
So they've got time to build a little something if they could. People have called for Naomi to be in the bloodline. I'm sure we called for it once upon a time. That the ship has probably sailed because bloodline are probably coming towards an end right now. As a new lease of life and to release the shackles of this Glow character, maybe a change in persona could be what Naomi needs. Maybe having she beats some of these other jabroni names on the women's division and goes into a WrestleMania match as a heel against Bianca. Because I guess right now it's not really clear what Bianca does, although we all know she has to be there. That could be something you do. Maybe, I don't know, a jealousy angle. Like I was the first black woman to come through, and you got this Hulu deal and this and the other. I don't know. I'm not thinking. I'm just saying stuff in it.
Oh Lord, please no, no.
Something that kind of irks her about maybe Bianca's success or something, because that's gonna be all over the place within the next week or so.
Yeah.
So, and obviously. Her husband's a heel, like, if you want to kind of marry that up, it makes sense to a degree. But I think what's important now is that for her to come back, like Gerard said, there has to be a reason why she's come back. She's been happy to come back. Like, she can't come back to be doing what she was doing before. Like, even that, her tag team partner's gone. So I think a situation where a change of character, because Bayley will probably be a face sooner or later, that then drives her towards that world title picture. Even if the first attempt at it is a failure, she can circle around, become more vicious. I think probably that's what I want to see, because I don't know what else she could be doing on SmackDown. It's too lazy for me to say put her and Jimmy together or something like that. Although I love a wrestling couple, I absolutely love one. I know that's not everyone's kettle of fish, and what people may want to see from her returning. But I think something like that could be good.
Oh, no yeet, no glow. Maybe. So I think it was Ibrahim in the chat has said something quite interesting, actually. And it's not too far from a possibility. Naomi and Bianca as a tag team challenging the tag team champions at WrestleMania. I think it's that would definitely be a bigger match than any other of the current women's tag teams who could challenge the Kabuki Warriors. It's a possibility. How we get there, who knows? Why we get there, who knows? It would actually feel like one of those matches where it doesn't have to have the most compelling story. It could literally just be Damage Control dominating everyone. Bianca's got history with them. She needs some help. Naomi turns up. Boom, they're at WrestleMania. That's actually quite a very easy thing to do.
It's too easy. It's almost boring-ish.
Maybe
let's just put them together and they can do it. And it's like but I think especially because she left the company off the back of the tag team stuff with Sasha Banks, it's literally like you just went and found the next black girl to team with, like, and now you're in the same division,
wow.
sort of thing.
Yeah, that would be a bit. Yeah, that would be a bit funny as well, actually. To be fair, but at the same time, as you said, like it's probably too easy. But given the other stuff that's happening with the women at the top of the card, what else do you do with them? I can't see, as much as there are still 65 days to go until WrestleMania, which gives you more than enough time to start a new feud, new story, blah, blah, blah. I think it's very difficult to find a space where we already have strong stories happening at the top of the women's division at the moment already on both shows. So maybe that might be that type of easy answer. It feels too easy. It feels a bit throwaway. But I just can't see where else they're going to do this unless is there going to be a women's elimination chamber match?
Probably.
Because that's the only other way either Bianca or Naomi end up in some kind of title picture. I can't see any other way.
But that's still, I mean, the winner of that will probably be from Raw because Bayley has won it on the SmackDown side. Rumble
maybe,
side.
but last
last
year they didn't pay attention to that. Like Rhea was Raw and she challenged SmackDown champion, that being Charlotte at the time, and won the title. WrestleMania is probably the one place where they allow those lines to be blurred a bit. So,
but that would be on the premise that you think Bayley's going to go after Rhea for the title, which I don't think she's going to do.
But here's the thing. Here's the amazing thing that WWE have done this year when it comes to the Royal Rumble match and the winner and who they're going to face. Both Bayley and Cody Rhodes, before they even stepped foot into the stadium for Royal Rumble, both told us who they wanted to face at WrestleMania. What now happened already is they've both kind of like said, all right, Cody, I'm going for Roman. Bayley, I'm coming for Rhea because Io's got the title here. I'm going to get the title on Raw. We're all going to have a championship, blah, 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 blah. By the end of last night's Raw, both of them didn't know what they were doing.
Right.
So it's still up in the air how things can go. She might still choose Rhea. It feels as though it's going to be an Io Sky thing, and we're going to get that. But then at the same time, I don't feel as though we're in a place where that's set in stone. So as much as they're kind of pulling the wool over our eyes and the red herrings and whatever, it still feels as though there's a strong chance it could be either one. So we'll see. There's a lot going on.
There's another strange precedent that was set, I believe it was about 2 years ago, by a guy who probably isn't very popular right now, but let's call him Trock Bresner, who had this whole thing where he won the Royal Rumble and then cashed in his WrestleMania Royal Rumble win at the Elimination Chamber, jumped into the Elimination Chamber, won the title, obviously then went to unify it with Roman Reigns. I wonder if there's some strange possibility that perhaps Bayley or somebody decides to do something similar. I don't know how, or I don't know what. I don't know. But I think they could pull something that we haven't seen before or reach back to something that seems so unlikely. I don't know. But to me, well, let me ask you guys this. Which is more challenging? Inserting Bianca or Naomi into the title picture for WrestleMania, or creating a compelling enough storyline so that they're in a match that doesn't involve a title and we're interested?
I mean, go on, Adrian.
I was going to say the difficult part for me is working out what that is. I mean, there are so many, obviously, it's a clean slate and blank page and stuff, but I just can't think of how they would do that. But there's plenty of time.
Yeah, there's enough time to come up with a story. I think because the world title picture has been it's very, especially with the damage control side of things, Io Sky, and now Bayley's become the number one contender if you like it at WrestleMania. It's like the story is there already. Leave it alone. Don't insert no one in there. I don't want to, I
Mhm.
don't need to hear Charlotte's music playing and then she comes wandering down and she finds herself in a world title picture. Just it's these two. Like, let's leave it. Yeah. Like, so I would rather they come up with a story between the two of them, even if you don't turn anyone. And it's just like a competitive kind of thing. Like, you know, we saw the Jordan Grace stuff with Bianca Belair, that saw Jordan Grace's exit. And it's like, you know, maybe, I mean, I know they probably don't want to talk too much about Jordan Grace on their programming, but it's like, I went over there, I challenged her, I held the belt over there, whatever the case is. And it's just like a friendly competition kind of thing between Naomi and Bianca to see, you know, does she measure up, or I don't know. Like, it's very easy to give Naomi a microphone and let her go and cut a You People promo on Friday.
We might be missing the most obvious thing, and you just said it.
What, something to do with TNA?
Naomi, Jordan Grace, the TNA Knockouts Championship at WrestleMania.
Nah.
That would be brilliant.
Why not? It's
why not? No, honestly,
it's a first time ever kind of thing. And now that they're both under the Endeavor brand, absolutely.
And Jordan Grace has kind of already teased this whole thing of saying,
yes,
you know, there's a possibility of more stuff.
Absolutely.
Which is, you know, we were saying a few weeks back.
Because think about it. Remember a couple of years ago when Mickie James was in the Royal Rumble and we were like, oh my God, this is awesome. But you don't think they would ever, you don't think she'd win the Rumble and then end up there. This is a great way to keep that door that isn't so forbidden open and to do something that's never been done before. That has never been done. In 40 years of WrestleMania, there has not been a champion from another company defend their title at WrestleMania. Do you know how massive that would be?
You know what? And you're not wrong in terms of how massive it would be on paper, but the only problem for me is they face each other twice already, and Jordan Grace has won twice.
Doesn't mean anything.
As much as
it's never happened at WrestleMania.
Oh, I know that.
You're talking Hard to Kill, no knock to TNA. Hard to Kill, one of the biggest events for TNA ever. And it was their biggest gate in 10 years had 2,000 people.
Yeah.
Let's not compare that to WrestleMania night 1 or night 2, right? Yeah. Jordan Grace just wrestled in front of more people than she's ever wrestled in front of in her life.
Yeah.
All right. So, and she did exceptionally well. So she impressed the WWE heads. Why not bring her back for this? And what a crazy moment it would be, you know, because everybody would have buy-in to that. The TNA people would have buy-in to that. You know, this is a great way to talk about that history in terms of what happened, you know, how big of a star she was in TNA. This still allows her to be strong and keeps her in a title contention kind of scenario. I think this is massively brilliant if they can pull it off. And it doesn't seem like it would be as hard since you pulled her in for Royal Rumble.
I think, you know, in terms of everything you're saying, in terms of how big it would be and it being unprecedented and all the rest of it, I think I'm about 80% of the way there, because I'm like, yes, bring Jordan Grace in. Yes, let's do this knockouts. But then I'm thinking, but not Naomi.
Why not?
Because I'm then thinking, okay, so who actually then ends up winning? Does Naomi then win?
Jordan Grace would have to retain. So that was my point. There's that situation. There's the situation of how do you build it, especially because on one show she's called Naomi, on the other one she's called Trinity. So how would you go about building it? But you know, in exactly what John was saying, in terms of innovation, in terms of something new, in terms of bringing eyes to the product, it ticks all of these boxes. It's best for business for both of them. It keeps Naomi's name up there if that's real, you know, WWE's intention. TNA obviously have somebody, their champion, on the WrestleMania card. If we now wanted to, you know, away from pushing people into title matches because of the Royal Rumble situation, we could probably push Bianca in there as well if we wanted to, and it could be a triple threat. I don't know how WWE would feel then about Jordan Grace beating two WWE superstars ultimately, but like, I'm for this idea, to be completely honest. I think it's better than a tag team idea, and it could be better than a poorly done heel turn. Right. I'm here for a heel turn if they do it right. But
Right.
yeah.
I don't see a heel turn happening. I can see how it would be better than, or definitely more eyes than the tag team match type of scenario, which again is a very easy option, but maybe just a little bit too easy. But it's going to be intriguing to see just what happens for Naomi in the next 65 days, even for Bianca, because here's something that I've been thinking the whole time we've been discussing, and I haven't had a chance to say it. What if Bianca's just not at WrestleMania at all? Like,
that won't happen.
I think that's a possibility, though. I think that's a possibility. I don't want to be this guy. I don't want to be that guy. But you know what? I'm loving WWE right now.
Yeah.
The focus is this, blah, blah, blah. Pregnancy test, is it possible that she might be, or very, who knows? Who knows? And maybe she's just not there at all this year. I'd rather her not be there at all than be kind of just thrown into something. You know what I mean?
Even if, I hear you, but even if Bianca is pregnant and she comes out on that 100-foot WrestleMania ramp to show her pregnancy test and they blow off pyro, she is going to be at WrestleMania.
I'll be happy with that.
But I think as long as she is obviously able to wrestle, they're gonna book her in a match. She is, one of, if not one, two, AB, the biggest mainstream star that they have in that women's division.
Yeah, of course. No, of course.
She will be there.
Of course. Very interesting. On the flip side, too, we've spent almost the whole show talking about the women's Royal Rumble. And I think this is what most people actually have done in reaction to the Royal Rumble in general. The general consensus, for the most part, was that the men's Royal Rumble just wasn't as good in terms of whether it be the action, especially towards the end, or the surprises, the entrance. Some people have said, certain entries were wasted. Pat McAfee, for example, it was a moment, but maybe you could have thrown a wrestler in there. With the reaction that Trick Williams got on Friday, throw Trick Williams in just for the reaction, just for the pop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I totally thought he would be in there.
Yeah, you've got that. Give him and Carmelo something to do. Maybe even add into their little storyline on NXT. Do they get in each other's way in kind of, at some point or whatever it is? Something like that. Carmelo eliminated Trick and then was like, we missed a lot. There was something that did happen during that match, again, which kind of felt as though it probably could have been done better. But it's a talking point. When Bobby Lashley was in the match, and then Karrion Kross was then came in as an entrant as well. But within minutes, probably even seconds, Bobby Lashley's eliminated. AOP's come along and attacked Bobby, and then the Street Profits come to make the save. This is something we haven't necessarily talked a lot about yet on here, but what do you feel this is happening with this group moving forward? Because here's a question I wanted to ask for probably like the last 2 weeks. Who wins in this feud with Final Testament and Bobby Lashley and the Profits? I mean, they need a name. Goodness me. Who comes out on top? How do they do it? Is it just a straight six-man match? Do we get Bobby and Cross and then the Profits and AOP in separate feud? How do we do this? How do we do this thing? Max, what do you think?
I think the Final Testament win the feud. I think the Final Testament need to win the feud. Unfortunately, the likes of Bobby Lashley, Street Profits, they're in a place where losses don't really hurt them. They are still who they are. People still love them. Final Testament, especially Karrion Kross, it's almost like Last Chance Saloon brought back in 2022. Haven't done much of anything since then, apart from getting to high-ish profile feuds or mid-card feuds with high-profile people like Mysterio and AJ Styles. You lost all of them. You've now got your own faction. You need to win this at least as a starting feud to get in some momentum. Importantly, I think they are probably dressing this all up and using this as a means to kind of, they need to start building contenders for a potential new world champion. Not to say Karrion Kross is going to become a world champion anytime soon, but We know he is highly favored by Triple H. Triple H
Mhm.
brought him back again and all of that kind of stuff. And yeah, they need this more than the other guys do, which is a shame because we want to see that faction form and, you know, what are they? What's their name? And all of that kind of stuff. But the Final Testament 100% need it more.
You know what's interesting? The first time, and I didn't realize it was this, but the first time we actually saw Lashley and the Prophets together, or it became an actual thing, was almost 5 months ago.
Sheesh.
Wow. That's poor.
Crazy to think it's been that long, and
That's very poor.
We're nowhere closer to, and it's not just the name. It's not just the name. It's just really understanding their direction, what we're doing here. You know what I mean? All that type of thing. And I think for me, given this feud, there needs to be a way where both teams shine. I completely agree. 100% that Final Testament have to come away on top in some way, shape, or form. But for me, I think the best way for this to kind of happen and go well for both teams is for it to be, you know, the singles guys, Bobby and Cross, doing their thing, and then the tag teams doing their thing as well. Each pick up wins along the way. But when it comes down to that final match, or, you know, the decisive match, whatever it is, Final Testament have to go over. But until then, we need a name. We need some real direction. We need to see this aggression that there was, you know, that Lashley and the Prophets were supposed to have shown. And I understand as well that the crowd haven't exactly, you know, switched on them, as I guess they WWE probably wanted them to, or whatever it is. So we're kind of going back to, you know, maybe being a bit, you know, the good guys and stuff. But yeah, something seriously needs to happen with this group. It's crazy to hear when you watch the Love and WWE trailer, and Montez Ford says, you know, I'm trying to find my way in this thing, and I'm like, I feel like he's gone like further back.
We need to talk about it one day. 100%, we need to talk about it. Like, I won't necessarily buy into that comment. I won't jump at that comment. It is TV after all.
Yeah, of course.
But there is definitely an element of he isn't progressing, and maybe at the speed we thought once upon a time he would progress at. And yeah, he spent the last year, this year, doing much of nothing, like you just said, 5-6 months in this faction that are, namely, what are they doing? Spent a large part of last year doing the exact same, you know, not much of anything sort of thing. Yeah, the trajectory is not good. And some could even go as far as saying the likes of Dawkins is slowly closing the gap on him. It's still a gap.
You know what? I think I think it's I think it's now very close, and it's more to do with the fact that it doesn't feel as though Montez has progressed, whether that be his fault, whether that be booking, combination of a number of things. It's clear Angelo Dawkins has made progression in terms of his ability in the ring, the way he showcases himself. Obviously, we've now kind of tried to dress him a little bit better. You can still tell it's Angelo Dawkins, but, you know, we're getting better. It's better than the tracksuits. And the same Nike tracksuit that Mex has got in his wardrobe. You know what I mean? It's nice to see that. But I honestly think that when it comes to actually comparing the two of them, whether it be ability, everything kind of, you know, full package kind of considered, the gap is almost non-existent. Almost non-existent. It shouldn't be like that, but that's just how it is right now. But I just don't know what it means for this group. And I think for me, the scary part is the reason why Montez is where he is more to do with booking than it is his own ability, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. They just haven't found a good place for him. And I don't understand why and what's missing and what it might be. Gerard, what are your thoughts on this group and where they can be taken? Is there anywhere left?
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I don't normally. Sorry, yeah, that was Destiny's Child. They were asking for the group to say their name. And apparently it didn't work. So if Destiny's Child is calling me after 5 months, I think that tells us all we need to know. I'm sorry, I normally don't take calls, when we're doing shows live, but they rang in and I could not answer the call. Yeah, somebody say their name, please. Like they're just it's the 5-month thing scared me. I know people who have been pregnant who know the names of their children month 2 when the baby is incubating. All right. There's no way your baby is born for 5 months and you still come here, baby. Come on over here, baby. Give these Destiny's Child has asked for a name. The House of Black has asked for a name. Give these people a name. Perhaps when they get a name, they'll get an identity and they can get some wins. That's what's got to happen for them. I mean, you cannot take a group seriously. I mean, how are you going to run around 3-4 people deep and don't nobody know what to call you? Everybody else has got a name in the company. Everybody else. I mean, this is concerning to me. And, I do think that it needs to be, like you said, where they both get wins and things of that nature. Maybe that's it at the end of this. Maybe at the end they get a name. I don't know, but somebody give him a name, please.
Give them
please. We can't go into WrestleMania and you got the Final Testament running deep, and we're poor Sam is still saying Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits. They're dressed alike. I mean,
Corey Graves the other day. Corey Graves he said the other day, these are prideful men. That's what he referred to them on commentary, like. So it's like, are you calling them the pride or not, or has it not been like quite ticked off or not? Like, are we still waiting for some type of legislation to go through? Like, what are we waiting on? Like, I don't know. It's weird.
I just don't get it. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. I don't know what we're doing. I don't know what we're doing. God, someone help. Maybe someone who can help. Who's here, there, and everywhere. And he probably is he's probably the worst person to help. Is R-Truth. So R-Truth has found himself literally everywhere on our TV screens since his return. Obviously he's had this whole thing with being a part of the Judgment Day. He was in the Men's Royal Rumble, and for some strange reason, or for some Ron Killings reason, he's ended up in or turning up in the Women's Royal Rumble match as well. Of course, he was then attacked by Damian Priest and the rest of the Judgment Day yesterday on Raw. Is this the end of Truth and the Judgment Day? Are we getting the Awesome Truth back, and then we're getting a match between those two and the Judgment Day?
I think Awesome Truth are winning the tag team titles at WrestleMania.
I'm thinking the same thing,
Wow.
I'm thinking a very similar thing.
But then I've said along the way, I've always said that Damian Priest needs to, especially if Rollins' injury, he needs to cash in Monday night after Raw. Monday night after Mania, sorry.
After Mania.
Yeah. So I don't mind him losing at WrestleMania take the world title the next night.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I think with him holding the briefcase, he could lose the tag team championships tomorrow, and I wouldn't be upset about it.
I actually thought they were going to lose it on Raw against DIY.
DIY,
really good match.
Great match. So yeah, I think it would be a very good way to go. Again, R-Truth just comes in and just finds himself at the top of the popularity ladder every single time without fail. So I think for me, it would be a perfect way, to kind of reward him for all of this as well, and give him that moment at WrestleMania, get that tag team title win. I think The Miz has been doing, good work as well the last few months or so, especially when you kind of had that whole thing with Gunther as well for the Intercontinental Championship. And he's kind of been consistent with that as well, or since then, should I say. as well. So I think that would be perfect for them two to kind of go over, win the tag team championships. Because to be honest as well, the Judgment Day need to lose it. I think it's become a little. They've had great matches, but I think it's kind of like overshadowed by everything else going on with the Judgment Day, especially with Rhea, with Priest as Mr. Money in the Bank and stuff. So yeah, it's about time they kind of let these tag team championships go, and fly away with other people and get everyone else then involved again, because it's almost feeling like a Roman Reigns title reign, where you don't know who could
tag team title.
Yeah, because you don't know who's actually going to beat them. It's that kind of scenario for me. It kind of just feels as though like, all right, they're beating everyone now. Let's hurry up and get it off them so we don't get into this space where we're like, yeah, no one's going to beat them.
I think there's a couple things that they need to do. Maybe starting with separating those titles. Don't need this undisputed
or unifying
champion, or if they're just gonna have one belt, then whatever.
Yeah.
But they should then be moving. They don't go to SmackDown as often as a tag team to defend that title. So yeah, that could be a thing. They could use it as a way to take the titles off these guys, in terms of Damian and Finn. And then if Damian does go on to become world heavyweight title champion, Finn somewhere down the line maybe picks up the IC belt, maybe, and then you can put the tag belts on Dominic and JD McDonough, maybe. So they have everything basically. But yeah, I think this is just a holding pattern. Like the faction deserves this. We just can't have Rhea running around as the world champion for the women, and then the men are like clowns basically with nothing sort of thing.
You know what? But I think that would be an amazing dynamic, though.
I think it would be, but right now they're playing out pretty much the same dynamic as what that could potentially be with the power between Priest and Rhea. So I don't think much would change, but my main thing is making sure Damian Priest cashes in that Money in the Bank. We need to protect the integrity of the Money in the Bank briefcase and the match. Definitely. So he needs to become champion. And if they fail on that, then I don't know what to tell you.
Our final thing, we've got a few more minutes to go and stuff. Our final thing, speaking of tag teams, we've mentioned them already as well. Earlier today is Trick and Mello are in their Dusty Cup semi-final match tonight on NXT. If they win, they go on to face Bron Breakker and Baron Corbin in the final of the Dusty Cup, and potentially means for Trick Williams, he'll be competing twice in one night at Vengeance Day, which is this Saturday. Sunday even. This Sunday. He'll be facing, so if he ends up in the Dusty Cup final, there'll be that one. And then, of course, the match that he's been waiting for about 2 months now is him versus Ilya Dragunov for the NXT Championship. Gerard, how possible is it that we see Trick competing twice in one night? And if he does, what's the outcome?
I think it is exceptionally possible that he will compete twice. His popularity says so. The story says so. Him trying to prove himself says so. They're going to win that match against the LWO tonight, one way or the other. Now, what happens in that final? I think, here's the thing. I don't think Trick wins twice. He competes twice. I don't think he wins twice. It could very well be a scenario. See, and here's what's tough. Now that you have Carmelo so prominently featured on SmackDown, and Braun, talking about the main roster is his home now. Both of them are working seemingly on borrowed time in NXT. So the question now would be, okay, which team wins and then can get a shot at the tag titles? On one hand, you would think that Carmelo Hayes would want him and Trick to win this so that they can get a shot at the tag title, so that in terms of story, Trick is kept on Carmelo's level, that Trick doesn't surpass Carmelo. I wonder if they're going to work in what happened Friday night, where Trick was cheered louder than Carmelo, and that kind of plays some games with Carmelo. And because here's the thing, I think Trick and Carmelo will win the Dusty Cup. At one time, I thought they would lose. I think they're going to win. But I think Carmelo's jealousy is going to keep him from allowing Trick to win the title. I think he'll cost Trick the title, and he may, even in costing Trick the title, be willing to forfeit the title shot from the Dusty Cup and use it all as a ploy to keep Trick at his level or below.
I think I'm absolutely there with you in every single way. Mex, what are your thoughts with this group? Do you think that Trick coming in to help to save Carmelo on Friday plays any kind of part? Because if we're expecting to see Carmelo on SmackDown more often and moving forward, and now that we've actually seen Trick with Carmelo on SmackDown, are they together on SmackDown? Or is that possibly a one-time thing? Trick stays on NXT, Carmelo comes up, does his thing.
Yeah, I think it's more of a one-time thing. He was just trying to, pull Carmelo away. Like, we've got this big match coming up. And that's the exact same capacity that I thought we would see him in the Royal Rumble. Carmelo enters the Rumble, and maybe not Trick's entering it to win it, but he just maybe jumps over the crowd or comes running out the entranceway. Like, what are you doing? We've got this big match on Tuesday, whatever the case is. And you just see a bit of the tussle there. I think the full-on turn is happening at Vengeance Day.
Totally.
I don't know if it's going to be. Yeah,
I
don't know whether it's good. You think it's going to go home? Okay, yeah, it might be right at the end of the show. I didn't know whether maybe they will do it, kind of Roderick Strong, Pete Dunne style within the match, the actual tag team match. Yeah, I maybe they win it. They win the trophy, but I don't know what it is. What is going to be the the final nail in the coffin? But the Trick isn't going to beat Ilya, and to maybe protect Trick, it'll be at the hands of Carmelo Hayes or something like that.
I wonder, as you were talking, I wonder if during the Trick Ilya match, because this is kind of, I wonder if two things happen. One, Carmelo comes out. He's told not to come out. He comes out because he just wants to support. And all things seem to be going well. And then randomly, NXT Anonymous gets a hold of the big screen and finally finds the footage of what actually happened that night.
During the match, or even after the match, right? Because I see that being the thing that costs Trick the title, because he's distracted by that. And then afterwards, Trick has got questions. Carmelo's trying to explain himself. And then this ends up being that go home from, that NXT takeover where DIY completely, imploded. And it's something, because it's going to be extreme. I just need the people to prepare their hearts. It's going to be extreme. Trick might be bloodied up before it's over. It's going to be so extreme that nobody's going to have any questions anymore. And Carmelo is going to solidify himself as the most hated guy in NXT after this Sunday night.
You reckon? Okay, having said all of that, I forgot I wanted to mention this point. Last week, following watching NXT, something came into my head like, could this be Ilya? As in, Ilya done this all along. There was I can't remember what the interaction now. It's a week later. There was an interaction where they were trying, like they put it on Ilya, and I think Ilya was he shuffled like he hasn't shuffled before. Like, no, like, why would it be me? Or like there was something that made me just think, and obviously that could be a red herring, but like there was something that made me think that why must we always break up these friendships? Like, yes, it can look very bad for Carmelo right now, but maybe Carmelo has just been genuine and backing his friend all this time. And I don't know. I just thought maybe they are just setting us all up thinking it's Carmelo, but really it is Ilya. And
He
in the world
actually
title
was
match,
Ilya the whole
we could
time.
see something dastardly from him. And even like you're saying, Gerard, the NXT Anonymous can play out on the screen, and it's like, see, like it's him all along, and maybe Carmelo telling Trick that distracts him for the finish. Like, I just didn't. I mean, Carmelo is obviously still very much a prime candidate. Like, but
of course, but
I just don't think after last week, particularly, we can completely rule out Ilya Dragunov.
That would actually be very, very.
That'd
clever.
be bonkers.
That would be very clever. But at the same time, we've seen it so many times at NXT, and we've done it so brilliantly and so perfectly. Where I just feel like it's basically the Shawn Michaels formula. Where a friend turns on the other. They've done it so many times, as you said. Roderick Strong, Pete Dunne. We saw it with JC Jane and Gigi Dolan. We mentioned the most famous one, Gargano and Ciampa.
Undisputed Era.
Yeah.
Dakota Kai and Tegan Knox. That one.
Yeah.
Roxanne and Cora.
Yeah, Roxanne and Cora.
All sorts. We've seen it so many times, and it's been done so well as well every time. For me, I'm really hoping to see that kind of outcome between those two more than anything. But the only thing for me that makes this whole thing a little bit difficult is this whole thing with Carmelo on SmackDown as well, because he's going in. He's clearly on SmackDown as a face, saving Kevin Owens up against Theory and Waller. Does he kind of blur the lines? Are we doing this thing where you can be one thing on NXT but something else on the main roster, or do we actually marry them together? Like, what is actually happening?
And that was the other reason that I thought it could be Ilya, because like we were saying earlier in the show,
it would make more sense.
The chemistry between the NXT and moving to the main roster has been so good so far that we're not doing, he's a heel over here and a face over here. Like, he is who he is now. So I just think we cannot rule out Ilya Dragunov. Wow. Let's see how he behaves tonight on NXT.
Very interesting.
Wow.
Very interesting. That would make it very, very. With that said, what's the outcome of the championship match?
Ilya. He retains.
Okay. He retains, and then we find out that it was him the whole time. Interesting. Right, I'm watching NXT tonight, guys.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh Lord, oh my gosh, yeah, man, definitely something to think about. And I think about a week or two ago, probably maybe about 2 weeks ago, we were in this mindset that this whole thing kind of feels as though it's taking a little bit too long. Now with these scenarios here, it's kind of brought it back to somewhere where I'm like fully excited again to see what the outcome is. But it does need to have the outcome or the end game at Vengeance Day. I think that has to happen, or at least some kind of answer. If it is Carmelo, and it was Carmelo that attacked Trick, then we have to have Carmelo and Trick at whatever the next NXT PLE is. If it is Dragunov and Trick, that could be the end of it. Vengeance Day could possibly be the end of it. Maybe Trick comes back for him at some point as well. But yeah, there definitely needs to be some kind of big answer at Vengeance Day or come Vengeance Day. Yeah,
I mean, if it's is Carmelo, like you're saying, you could just do like, the stand and deliver match on WrestleMania weekend. Trick gets the big win, sends Carmelo on his way to main roster. If it is Dragunov, you basically do the rematch, I think, at stand and deliver. Trick wins there. Because I think they probably have an eye on Dragunov moving him up, because obviously they've got the Berlin show coming up as well later on in the year. So he might still hang around at NXT, but probably not for too long either, maybe.
Interesting. There's something else I wanted to talk about, but the time's gone. You mentioned Berlin, so I was thinking Gunther, and obviously him versus Kofi Kingston. But it was something that you mentioned last week, so I didn't you know, this whole Big E comes out to save, and eventually,
Yeah,
it's building. It's building.
We didn't even get Big E in the Rumble, but I think we're still
True.
building, like you're saying. I think it's still something there. So yeah, we'll
yeah,
see.
yeah. I think there's definitely still something there, and there's 65 days until WrestleMania, so you know it's doable.
We got time.
It's doable. We have got time, but unfortunately, we don't have any more time, as this is the end of the show. You have been watching WrstlXtra on the WrestleManiac UK YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe and click that notification bell, and you will see us every single week. And also, when you see this guy Mex post all his reactions to WWE, AEW, everything else in between. You can also see Mex on the Wrestling's YouTube channel as well. Go back and watch that Royal Rumble watch along, because the reactions and the shenanigans is crazy. You can find all of that and more from the Wrestling's guys on the Wrestling's YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, and click notification bell. You can find Mex himself on WrestleManiac UK on Instagram and WrestleManiac.uk. Oh, it's the other way around. It's WrestleManiac UK on X, WrestleManiac.uk on Instagram. Yeah.
Thank you.
You can find this. Thank you. You can find this guy, Gerard Bonner, on all things Bonafide. You can also find him on his own show, The Faction Show. Find him on WWC Live, The Nightmare Factory, IEW, Shea, All Caribbean Wrestling, Southern Honor Wrestling, everything else in between, because this guy is everywhere.
And anything that's wrestling, he's there.
Literally, he's there. He's the god. The omnipresent guy, that is Gerard Bonner. You can find me, A Dazzle, on Black Wrestling Alliance on Instagram and BWA Dazzle on X. Guys, we will see you again 6 p.m. BST or 6 p.m. UK time, and whatever time it is in whatever part of the US you're in, because I'm not trying to work it out. It's a lot. It's a lot. Guys, thank you for joining us if you have, and we'll see you again next time.
See you later.